The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. I'm Beverly Cross, Assistant Director of Education and Training with the Institute of Child Nutrition. Welcome to the Team Up Thursdays webinar on Manufacturers Product Formulation Statement, Is it Acceptable? The Institute of Child Nutrition, including its Applied Research Division, has collaborated with USDA to develop Team Up for School Nutrition Success. Team Up is a unique learning experience designed to enhance the operation of school nutrition programs. It provides tailored technical assistance to programs that want to maintain a healthy environment and increase student meal program participation. As a follow-up to the Team Up pilot workshop in November 2014, a monthly webinar series was launched. It serves as a platform to further enhance partnerships and to provide an opportunity for all school nutrition professionals to discuss issues and provide solutions and best practices used by districts in key areas. The ICN has created a website for all materials and resources specifically related to Team Up. You can find the information at www.theicn.org/teamup. Today's webinar features a panel of experts from the USDA Food and Nutrition Service Child Nutrition Programs. They will discuss manufacturer's product formulation statement, Is it acceptable? I'm pleased to introduce our panelists from the Nutrition Promotion and Technical Assistance Division, Kaushalya Hindaniya, Gwen Holcomb, and Ebony James. During today's webinar, all attendees are muted. There will be time at the end of the presentation for questions to be answered. If you have a question, please type it into the question box. We would also like to make you aware that due to the nature of today's presentation, this webinar may exceed the 1-hour time frame. However, the webinar is being recorded and can be viewed on the Team Up for School Nutrition Success website. And now we will hear from our first panelist today, Kaushalya Hindaniya.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are coming together to discuss how to determine if the manufacturer's product formulation statement is acceptable. It will provide a brief overview on the child nutrition label and the CN label copied with the watermark. We'll also do a step-by-step review of the product formulation statement and how to determine if these documents are acceptable. We will not be going into detail regarding other aspects, such as how to use the food buying guide, which honestly can be a webinar on training in its own right, nor will we be discussing products specific to one particular manufacturer. In order to be able to cover the objectives of this webinar, we would ask that if you have questions specifically related to your own product, or a product you are utilizing or thinking about utilizing, please feel free to submit an email to our mailbox, cmpntab@fns.usda.gov, and I'll go over this mailbox again at the end of the presentation. This mailbox is actively managed by capable staff, and it is our pleasure to answer all questions submitted or to pass those questions to policy if they are not under our authority. We have lots of great information to share, so I'm going to jump right in. The CN label is the gold standard for verifying the crediting of menu items. It is approved by USDA. Foods purchased with a CN label provide school food authorities, SFAs, and other CN program operators with a warranty against audit claims when the product is prepared and served as stated on the label. CN Labels products are produced under an approved quality control plan, and the production of these products are monitored quarterly or semi-annually by federal inspection personnel. This is an example of a CN label that provides crediting information for the meat alternate, grains, and vegetable subgroup components. The CN logo is one of the 4 integral parts of a CN label, which includes the product name, the ingredient statement, and the inspection legend. Please note all 4 parts must be present on a product carton in order for the CN label to be valid. The proper process to document a CN label for administrative review includes: you can remove the original CN label from the product carton and maintain the label in file, or you can photograph the original CN label while it's still attached to the product carton, or you can have a photocopy of the CN label. The CN labels that are photocopied or photographed must be visible and legible. If the original CN label from the product package or a photograph or photocopy of the original CN label is not available, then a watermarked CN label may be used as documentation during administrative review. A watermark is an image or a text that informs about the use or credibility of a document. Watermarks are typically used when the CN logo and contribution statement are located on product information other than the actual product carton. Manufacturers may provide a CN label copied with a watermark during the bidding process. A watermark CN label provided in this manner may contain preliminary information. Therefore, CN program operators are encouraged to verify that the watermark CN label came from a product that was purchased by the school and accurately reflects the product. CN labels copied with the watermark are acceptable documentation during administrative review when attached with bill of lading or an invoice. If a watermark CN label is used as documentation during administrative review, the program operator must also provide proof of purchase, such as the bill of lading or invoice containing the product name. The watermark CN label can be a hard or an electronic copy. This is an example of a CN label copied with a watermark. As you can see, the watermark states not for documenting meal requirements. However, as previously stated, a watermark CN label can be used as documentation when combined with bill of lading or invoice as proof of purchase. This is another example of a watermark CN label. This time, and this one, the watermark is displayed under the CN label instead of directly across the CN label. There are no requirements as to whether the watermark should be placed on the label. However, it should be placed near the CN logo and crediting statement. FNS has issued 2 memos and a tip sheet on acceptable documentation regarding the CN label and the CN label copied with the watermark. Both memos and the tip sheets are available online at the link listed on this slide. Here is a flowchart to summarize what we just discussed on verifying acceptable documentation of CN label during administrative review. Let's just go through the flowchart. Is the following document provided? Is an original CN label from the package provided? If yes, then this is acceptable documentation. If no, is there a photocopy or photograph of the original CN label on package provided? If yes, it's acceptable documentation. If no, Is the watermark CN label hard copy or an electronic copy and the bill of lading provided? If yes, this is accepted. If no, then you must request a manufacturer's product formulation statement. Now I will hand it over to Gwen to continue on.
Thank you, Kashala, for that overview. Now we will move forward with how to determine if a manufacturer's product formulation statement is acceptable. First, let's discuss what is a manufacturer's PFS. When schools purchase processed products that are not CN labeled, a manufacturer may use a product formulation statement to communicate with program operators how their product contributes to USDA meal pattern requirements. A PFS is not warranted by USDA. Therefore, the manufacturer is responsible for ensuring their product is processed to meet the contribution as stated on the PFS. CN program operators should review and verify the information presented on the manufacturer's PFS and keep a record for documentation purposes. A key point to remember, a manufacturer's PFS is not approved by USDA. This is why it's important for program operators to review and verify the information prior to purchasing the product. What does a PFS look like? A manufacturer's PFS is a signed, certified document and must be on company's letterhead. The PFS should be signed by a person of authority who is familiar with the product and the information provided on the PFS. The signature may be handwritten, stamped, or electronic. The format and design of the PFS may vary from vendor to vendor. However, the PFS must include information as outlined on USDA PF template. I will provide more details on the information required as we move forward in this presentation. As previously stated, a PFS format and design may vary, but the following information must be included: the product name, the product code, the serving or portion size, the creditable ingredient, and information to determine if the contribution statement is correct. As we continue, I will provide details and examples that explain each of the requirements listed. Product name. The product name on the PFS should match or have a similar description as the name indicated on the label. Let's review a couple of basic examples. The product name on the label states crispy, breaded, square chicken strips. The product name on the PFS is listed as breaded chicken strips. This is acceptable. The product name identifies key elements about the food item. Based on the name alone, we know the product may contribute towards the meat and grain components. In the next example, the name on the label states early harvest green lima beans, canned. The name on the PFS is listed as beans. This is not acceptable. It's important to identify the type of beans, so the program operator will know which vegetable subgroup the product contributes, such as starchy or the legume vegetable subgroup. The PFS must include a product code. A product code is a unique identifier assigned by the vendor. It may be numbers, letters, or a combination of both. A PFS must also include the serving size or portion size. The serving size stated on the PFS should represent the amount of the product as purchased or ready to serve. It also represents the amount of food needed to provide the meal contribution as stated on the PFS. Portion sizes may be stated as a weight or measure. If the portion size is stated as a measure, the vendor should also provide the weight of the measure. For example, a half a cup of pineapples weigh 135 grams. A key piece of information to include on a PFS is the creditable ingredients. Creditable ingredients are foods or ingredients that contribute to one of the food components of the USDA meal pattern requirements, which include meat, meat alternates, grains, fruit, and vegetable subgroups. The creditable ingredient listed on the PFS must match or have a similar description as stated on the product label. The creditable ingredients must also match or have a similar description in the food buying guide. It is important that the vendor identify the type or form of the creditable ingredient to ensure the appropriate yield information is applied. For example, the label may list kidney beans as an ingredient. However, kidney beans do not correspond with the description in the food buying guide. The vendor must identify the type or form of kidney beans used, such as canned kidney beans, which matches the description in the food buying guide. The food buying guide for school meals and other child nutrition programs is available online at the links listed on this slide. Now I will provide two examples on how the creditable ingredient may be listed on the PFS compared to what is stated on the label. The first example is for a grilled chicken nugget. The label lists chicken meat as an ingredient. Although chicken is a creditable ingredient, chicken meat does not match a description in the food buying guide. The vendor must identify the form or type of chicken meat that matches and has a similar description in the food buying guide. Therefore, chicken meat may be identified on the PFS as boneless chicken or ground chicken, or any other chicken item listed in the food buying guide that is comparable to the ingredient stated on the label. The second example is for meatballs. The label ingredient lists ground beef, not more than 20% fat. Ground beef, not more than 20% fat, matches a description in the food buying guide. Therefore, the PFS must list ground beef not more than 20%. Please note, ground beef ingredients such as beef and pork must include the percent fat. The percent fat for these ingredients have a direct correlation with the cooking yield. Therefore, the percent fat must be listed on the PFS. Ground poultry such as chicken and turkey are not required to include a percent fat on the PFS. As we continue our discussion on creditable ingredients, the next element to talk about is alternate protein products, also known as APP. APP is a name used by F&S to identify products meeting the requirements set forth in 7 CFR Parts 210, 220, 225, and 226. Alternate protein product is a creditable ingredient. However, yield information for an APP is not listed in the food buying guide. This is because the alternate protein products are intended to be used as ingredients by manufacturers and not program operators. Some examples of APPs include soy flour, soy concentrate, and whey protein concentrate. APPs are ingredients typically used in an entree with a visible meat or meat alternate, such as patties, meat filling, or crumbles. As previously stated, yield information for an APP is not listed in the food buying guide. An APP ingredient is only creditable when supporting documentation is provided. The supporting documentation for the APP must be on the letterhead of the vendor producing the APP. This is a sample APP supporting documentation. The information as outlined in this sample must be provided in order for the APP ingredient to be creditable. The vendor producing the APP will be able to provide the required details needed to document the APP accordingly. Additional information regarding APP and a copy of the sample documentation is available online at the link listed in this slide. Another key component a PFS must include is information to determine the product's contribution toward meal pattern requirements. For meat items, the PFS must include information on the ounces of raw creditable ingredient per portion, the amount of dry APP per portion when applicable, and the food buying guide yield information. To determine a product's grain contribution, the PFS must include information based on the portion sizes in Exhibit A or based on the grams of creditable grain component per portion. To determine the fruit and vegetable contribution, the PFS must include information on the ounces of the fruit or vegetable ingredient per portion, the food buying guide yield information, and identify the vegetable subgroups. For the next few slides, I will provide examples on how to review and verify the contribution statement on a PFS. To begin, let's review a PFS for a grilled chicken nugget. The contribution stated on the manufacturer's PFS is or chicken nuggets provide 2-ounce equivalent meat. Now we need to verify the PFS. Includes all the information needed to determine if that contribution statement is correct. First, we need to decide, does the PFS list the creditable ingredients? Yes, ground chicken. Does the creditable ingredient match or have a similar description as the ingredient listed on the product label and in the food buying guide? Yes, the vendor identified the chicken meat that is listed on the label as ground chicken, which matches a food description in the food buying guide. Does the PFS include the amount of raw chicken per portion? Yes, 2.88 ounces. Is the food buying guide yield information provided? Yes, 70%. We have all the information needed to determine if the contribution statement is correct. The next example is a beef patty with APP. The manufacturer's product formulation statement certifies that the 2.1-ounce beef patty provides 2-ounce equivalent meat alternate. Let's verify the contribution statement. What creditable ingredients are identified? Ground beef, not more than 30% fat, and soy protein concentrate. Do the creditable ingredients match or have a similar description as the product label and in the food buying guide? Yes and no. The ingredients match the description on the product label. However, only the ground beef, not more than 30%, matches a description in the food buying guide. Please note, APPs are only creditable ingredients when supporting documentation is provided. Did the vendor provide supporting documentation for the APP? Yes. Remember, the APP supporting documentation must be on the letterhead of the company producing the APP. Also verify the name and code on the APP supporting documentation matches the name on the PFS. The APP supporting documentation includes all the information needed to calculate the APP contribution. Therefore, the soy protein concentrate is a creditable ingredient. Now that we've verified the APP supporting documentation, let's continue with the PFS review. Does the PFS include the raw amount of ground beef per portion? Yes. 2 ounces. Does the PFS include the food buying guide yield for ground beef, not more than 30%? Yes, 70%. All the required information is provided to calculate the creditable amount of ground beef. Does the PFF include information to determine the APP contribution? The answer is yes. The amount of dry APP per portion is provided, 0.20 ounces, and the protein as is, 65%, is also included. Please note, the protein as is will be documented on the APP supporting documentation. According to the supporting documentation, the soy protein concentrate is certified to be at least 65% on an as-is basis. The creditable amount of the APP is 0.72 ounces. Add columns A and B, round down to the nearest quarter ounce, which equals 2 ounce equivalent meat alternate. Therefore, the PFF contribution statement for this item is correct.
Thank you, Gwen. All right, so now we're going to use some of the information that Gwen shared. Is everybody ready to practice your skills? We're going to go through this together to give you some practice of how to review and verify the contribution statement as listed on the PFS. Does everyone have their pen, paper, and calculator ready? To begin, let's evaluate a PFS for grilled chicken nuggets. According to the manufacturer's PFS, 4 chicken nuggets, which equates to 2.60 ounce, provides a 2.25 ounce equivalent meat. Let's verify this contribution statement and determine if the product actually provides a 2.25 ounce equivalent meat. First, does the vendor provide a list of creditable ingredients? The answer to that is no. Why is that? Chicken is listed, but does not specify if it is ground or not. Chicken meat may be listed on the PFS as boneless chicken or ground chicken. In this case, the vendor may identify the chicken based on the type or how it was processed to a similar description as listed on the product label and in the food buying guide. Please note that chicken listed on the PFS as chicken is not acceptable. The vendor will need to clarify the type of chicken, so we will fix that here so we can move on with this practice exercise. What is the amount of raw ground chicken used per portion for this product? It's 2.88 ounce. What is the food buying guide yield for ground chicken? The answer is 70%. We do have all the information needed to determine if the contribution statement is correct. We just need to verify the calculations. 2.88 ounce of raw ground chicken multiplied by the food buying guide yield of 70% gives you 2.01 ounce, which rounds down to a 2.00 ounce meat contribution. Based on the PFS information and this calculation, do we need to contact the manufacturer? What do you all think? Let's see who's a PFS master. Based on what we've been provided, do we need to contact the manufacturer? Is the answer yes? We need to contact the manufacturer for more information about the credible ingredient only, or yes, we need to contact the manufacturer because the PFS crediting statement is incorrect, or no, we need to contact USDA FNS regarding the food buying guide entry for chicken, or no, we have all the information we need. What do you think the answer is? The correct choice is number 2. We do need to contact the manufacturer because the PFS crediting statement is incorrect. Does anyone know why? There is an issue here because the product is credited incorrectly. So as we found in our PFS master question and answer, so we would need to contact the manufacturer. When we verified the calculations, we found that 2.88 ounce of raw ground chicken multiplied by the food buying guide yield of 70% equals 2.01 ounce, which rounds down to a 2.00 ounce meat contribution. so they should not have rounded up to the 2.25 ounce equivalent. So we're going to go over some tips to remember when determining the meal pattern contribution for a meat alternate product. First, do not round up the total creditable amount. Also, total creditable amount must be rounded down to the nearest 0.25 ounce. The total creditable amount cannot count for more than the total weight of the product. Also, APP is only creditable when supporting documentation is provided. And last but not least, supporting documentation must be provided for each APP used in product. Now I will turn it back over to Gwen to continue on.
Thank you, Ebony. Now we will review how to determine the contribution for a grain product. If you recall, a PFS may include information based on the weight as listed in Exhibit A or based on the grams of creditable grain component. In this example, we will evaluate the PFS for a biscuit based on the weight as listed in Exhibit A. Before we verify the contribution statement, let's review the label ingredient statement to see if the product meets FNS whole grain rich criteria. The first ingredient is whole wheat flour, and the second ingredient is enriched wheat flour. As you continue to read the ingredient statement, the product also contains wheat flour. The wheat flour is not whole or enriched, therefore it is considered a non-creditable grain. However, the wheat flour is listed after the less than 2% statement. Therefore, it is not required to be included in the calculation when determining the amount of non-creditable ingredients. Since whole wheat flour is the primary grain ingredient and the other grain listed is enriched wheat flour, this item meets the whole grain rich criteria. Now back to the contribution statement. According to the PFS, the portion size of one biscuit is 50 grams. The weight of 1 ounce equivalent as listed in Exhibit A is 28 grams. The PFS includes the necessary information to determine the grain contribution by dividing 50 grams by 28 grams. The total creditable amount is 1.78 ounces, round down to the nearest quarter ounce, which equals 1.75 ounces. Using the same example, we will now determine the grain contribution based on the grams of creditable grains. Does the PFS include the amount creditable grain ingredient per portion? Yes. The biscuit contains 23 grams of whole wheat flour and 11 grams of enriched wheat flour. The gram standard for this item is 16 grams. Different gram standards are applied depending on which group of food is categorized in Exhibit A. The gram standard for items in groups A through G is 16 grams, and the gram standard for items in group H and I is 28 grams. This item is a biscuit. It belongs in group B, and the gram standard is 16 grams. To determine if the contribution statement is correct, divide the creditable grain amount by the gram standard of 16 grams. Add the two creditable amounts together for a total of 2.15 ounce, which rounds down to 2 ounce equivalent grain contribution. Depending on which method is used to calculate the grain credit, it is possible to get a different crediting amount. Keep in mind, the weights listed in Exhibit A are based on the minimum grain amount to provide a 1 ounce equivalent, whereas the grams of creditable grain is the actual amount of the grain ingredient, which may be higher than the minimum 16 gram standard. In this example, the creditable grain ingredient amounts are combined and documented as one total. This is acceptable as long as the product label clearly identifies whole grain as the primary ingredient and all other grains are enriched.
All right, thank you, Gwen. So now we're going to do another practice exercise so we can practice what we just learned. In this example, the contribution will be determined using the grams of creditable grain. So please take out your writing instrument again and your calculator and paper. This item, which is a roll, falls within Group B. So we use how many grams as the standard of creditable grain per ounce equivalent? As Gwen reminded us, the gram standard for items in Exhibit A, Groups A through G, is 16 grams, and gram standard for items in Groups H and I is 28 grams. This item is a roll and is a part of Group B, so the gram standard is 16 grams. In this example, the amount of each creditable grain ingredient is provided. There's 26.5 grams of whole wheat flour per portion and 9 grams of enriched wheat flour per portion. We divide each amount of creditable grain by the gram standard of 16 grams. So let's do that now together. 26.5 divided by 16 equals what? 1.656. And then we have the 9 grams divided by 16, and that's going to give us 0.562. The credible amount of whole wheat flour is 1.656, and the credible amount of enriched flour is 0.562. So what is the total credible amount? We add together the 1.656 and 0.562, and we get a total of 2.22. And then we round that down to 2.00 ounce equivalent grains. Does this product meet FNS whole grain rich criteria? Yes, it does. Does this product contain non-creditable grains? We see that wheat bran is listed and it's in red text, but it's not a factor for us because it's listed after the 2% statement. So let's see who out there is a PFS master once more. Based on the information that we received and the calculations, do we need to contact the manufacturer about this product? Is the answer yes? We need to contact the manufacturer for more information about the non-creditable grains only? Or yes, we need to contact the manufacturer because the amount of creditable grain is missing? Or no, we need to contact USDA FNS regarding the revised Exhibit A? Or no, we have all the information we need? What's the answer? The answer is no, we have all the information we need. So now we're going to go over some points to remember when determining the meal pattern contribution for a grain product. First, do not round up the total creditable amount. Also, total creditable amount must be rounded down to the nearest 0.25 ounce. We must also remember that both options for crediting grains are acceptable. And last but not least, program operators may choose the option that best fits the needs of the menu planner. For additional guidance regarding FNS whole grain rich criteria, please see our whole grain resource, which is available at the link provided on this slide. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Gwen.
Now we will review the contribution statement for a vegetable soup. According to the PFS, 1 cup of vegetable soup provides a ½ cup red-orange vegetable and a ¼ cup starchy vegetable. Let's see if the PFS provides enough information to verify the vegetable credit for this item. Does the PFS identify the creditable ingredients? Yes. Diced tomatoes and potatoes. Do the creditable ingredients match or have a similar description as the product label and the food buying guide? Yes again. Does the PFS include the ounce per raw portion of each creditable ingredient? Yes. There are 5 ounces of diced tomatoes and 1.8 ounces of diced potatoes. Does the PFS include the corresponding food buying guide yield for each ingredient? Yes, that information is provided in the last column of the PFS. The vendor has given us all the information needed to determine if the contribution statement is correct. The next example is for a number 10 canned pinto bean. Please note, foods that are listed in the food buying guide, such as fruits and vegetables, are not required to have a PFS. However, a CN program operator may request a manufacturer's PFS to show as documentation for an administrative review. According to this PFS, one number 10 can of pinto beans provides 28 half-cup legume vegetable or 2-ounce meat alternate. The food buying guide yield information for pinto beans is also provided. The PFS has included all of the information needed to determine if the contribution statement is correct. Based on the needs of the menu planning, the program operator will decide how to incorporate pinto beans into the meal as a vegetable or as a meat alternate component. Moving forward, we will review the PFS for a 4-ounce mixed fruit cup packed in light syrup. The PFS may demonstrate the fruit contribution one of two ways, based on the amount of each individual fruit in the mix, or use the food buying guide yield information for the number 10 canned fruit mix. For this example, we will use the yield information for the number 10 canned fruit mix. As we can see from the calculation, a 4-ounce mixed fruit cup provides 3/8 cups of fruit. In order to achieve a higher fruit credit, such as a half a cup, the vendor will need to adjust the serving size.
All right. Hello again, everyone. So we're going to use this time for one more practice. So we received a letter about a product from someone named Miss I Want a Strong Body, the director of the Strong Body Company. And her letter reads, "To whom it may concern, I'm interested in marketing my product to be served in schools as a part of the National School Lunch Program. The Strong Body Collard Greens would be a great addition to any school meals program. Please see the attached product formulation statement. Thank you for your consideration." And it's signed, "I Want a Strong Body." And it also includes an enclosure. So her enclosure consists of a product formulation statement. So let's note some of the parts of the PFS that are important just for a review. We have the template here that's been filled in with the product that we're discussing. And this one is a simple one because it's a canned vegetable. So Ms. Strongbody has certified at the bottom that the statement and the information provided is true. But what's the first thing that is missing here? Number one, the PFS should be presented on company letterhead, and that's a key missing piece here. What else do we need to check? Number two, we're going to check our numbers. The food buying guide yield number of 27.2 corresponds to column 3 in the food buying guide entry for collard greens canned. The purchase unit number of 54 corresponds to column 6 in the food buying guide entry for collard greens canned. So that information is correct. Let's keep going, and as we do, we're going to pull out those calculators and pens and paper one last time. The credible ingredient is collard greens. One number 10 can of collard greens heated and drained provides 27.2 quarter cup servings. Therefore, you have your 4 ounce multiplied by the 27.2 divided by the 54, and it's going to give you 2.0148. But we round that down and we get 2 quarter cups, which equals a half cup dark green vegetable. So 4 ounces of this product provides a half cup vegetable. So who are the PFS masters out there? Do we need to contact the manufacturer for more information in order to determine if the crediting is correct? Is it yes, we need to contact the manufacturer because the information is not provided on company letterhead? Or yes, we need to contact the manufacturer because the PFS is incorrect? Or no, we need to contact USDA FNS to approve the PFS? Or no, we have all the information we need. What's the answer? Was everything okay? The answer is the first choice. So even though everything else was correct, we would still need to contact the manufacturer because the information has to be provided on company letterhead in order to be accepted. And also, just to emphasize, USDA FNS does not approve the product formulation statement. So just to reemphasize what we just pointed out, the PFS must be presented on company letterhead in order to be acceptable. As noted before, foods that are listed in the food buying guide, such as fruits and vegetables, are not required to have a product formulation statement. However, a CN program operator may request a manufacturer's product formulation statement to show as documentation for an administrative review. So here are just some points to remember when determining the meal pattern contribution for a fruit or vegetable product. First, fruits and vegetables credit on the volume served, with the exceptions of dried fruit, tomato paste or puree, and raw leafy green vegetables. This exception applies to school meals only. In addition, for additional details regarding these exceptions, please refer to the SP 10 2012 version 9 Q&As on the final rule, which is available at the link on this slide. Also, do not round up the total creditable amount. Always round down to the nearest quarter cup. The food buying guide yield information for fruits and vegetables is presented in quarter cups. Also, quarter cup to cup conversion chart is available at the link listed on this slide. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Gwen.
Thank you, Ebony. For our last review, we will evaluate the PFS for a cheese pizza. According to the PFS, according to this PFS, 5.5 ounces of cheese pizza provides 2-ounce equivalent meat alternate, 2-ounce equivalent grains, and a quarter cup of red orange vegetables. The PFS identifies several creditable ingredients: cheese, which contributes to the meat alternate component, tomato paste, which contributes towards the red orange vegetable subgroup, and the crust, which contributes towards the grain component. The PFS also includes the amount of each creditable ingredient. The product contains 2 ounces of cheese. Since cheese credits 1-to-1, with the exception of ricotta cheese, all the cheese ingredients may be combined and documented as one amount. The amount of tomato paste is 0.58 ounces. The corresponding food buying guide yield is also provided. The weight of the crust is 56 grams, and the grain credit is determined by using the weights listed in Exhibit A. Based on the information provided, the contribution statement is correct.
Thank you, Gwen. Now to wrap up, here are the points to remember when determining the meal pattern contribution for all products. A PFS may include crediting information for more than one meal component on the same document. However, the lender must include the required information needed to verify the contribution statement for each meal component. A PFS may include the product's nutritional information, but this is not a requirement. Please keep in mind a PFS is not required to be updated yearly. Manufacturers should provide a new or revised PFS when the product's formulation or contribution statement changes. School program operators are encouraged to communicate with lenders to ensure the manufacturer's PFS reflects the most current information. Last but not least, we know this is a lot of information to process. To help you navigate through the PFS review and become a PFS master, FNS has developed tips to help evaluate these documents. The tip sheet outlines what is required in order to determine if a PFS is accurate and acceptable and when to contact the manufacturer. This tip sheet is available online at the link listed on this slide. This concludes our presentation. Listed here is the Nutrition and Technical Assistance Branch email box, which I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, and which you can use to submit technical assistance questions. And please follow whatever protocols that you have set up with your regional staff to submit questions and continue that way, and the regional staff will continue to pass on your questions from the schools and the state onto us. Now we have some time to go over some questions that you have submitted. So first question, for ease of verification for grain claims on pasta for commodity processed end products via EPDS, can an RA require manufacturers PFS to use option 2? And the second part is based on dry weight.
Yes, you can request the manufacturer's PFS. However, usually those items are, I believe, processed through commodity from FDD's available foods list. So the information to do the proper crediting is can be documented on the PFS, but it's also provided on the USDA fact sheet.
Will the recording and slides be available after today? Yes, they will be on the ICN's website. We're reviewing the questions as we're getting them, Steve. Please bear with us. The next question is, what does an RA do if they find that the PFS sheet is incorrect? Is the processor responsible, or is that what a CN label is supposed to do since USDA reviewed it?
Well, as mentioned earlier in the presentation, if the product has a CN label, it is considered gold standard and no additional crediting information is required. You can credit that item based on the crediting statement identified on the CN label. If the product does not have a CN label and the PFS is presented, it is the manufacturer's responsibility to ensure that the product is processed accordingly to the contribution statement, and it is the program operator's responsibility to review and verify the document prior to purchasing the food item.
There's a question that was submitted about the child and adult care food program requirements. This question we will need to confer with our policy division before we can answer. But please feel, we will have a copy of this question, but you can also email questions. The next question is, if a processor is allowed to provide a picture, can it be given to an RA without the watermark statement and the establishment not marked out? We have schools that asked us for this. We have schools that ask for this all the time, and we tell them we can only give them the watermark label, as that is the way we understand the rule from the CN office. If the processor is providing a photocopy of the CN label, as mentioned in our overview for what is required and what is acceptable, it would have to have a watermark across when you're presenting it to the school if it contains a CN logo along with a crediting statement. So that is correct. We have issued guidance on how the manufacturer is to provide that documentation to their schools to communicate how their product credits, but you don't have the actual CN label product in hand. You're just providing a photocopy with the watermark on there. And in order for it to be acceptable during the administrative review process, the school program operator would need to have the bill of lading or the invoice attached to the CN label with the watermark. Next question is, does the percent fat have to also be on the label as well as the PFS? And the answer is yes, it does. If the as follow-up to that question about the percent fat, I'm sorry, no. Sorry. Next question is, as a vendor, what do I do when a competitor has issued an incorrect PFS sheet once it is reviewed against the food buying guide? We do not police other vendors and their crediting statement. However, if it is brought to our attention, we will contact the vendor and to provide them the correct guidance on either correcting their information or to provide what the crediting statement should be, but we don't control a vendor's marketing materials. There was a question about one of the examples we used. Where did you come up with the 2.88 for raw chicken meat? That was just the same example that we were doing to show how the calculation can be done, not an exact product information. The next question is, do you think vendors will start adjusting package size so that a single package would, for instance, now be a half a cup credit fruit cup?
That's a possibility. Vendors normally make the appropriate adjustment to their product and to labeling based on their customer needs.
Next question, does the product code stay the same for all packing size of a product?
That will depend on the vendor and their coding system. It may change depending on the package size, and it also may change depending on the location that it's actually being shipped as well. So that is totally left up to the vendor's discretion.
If a company provides a CN label, do we need to verify components?
No, you do not need to verify components for a CN label. As previously stated, the CN label is considered gold standard. The products that have a CN label have already been reviewed and approved by AMS, USDA Agricultural Marketing Service, is our sister agency who manages that program for us, and they are reviewing the product formulation for each item and also going into the facilities where these products are being produced and verifying production as well.
Where is the checklist located? The tip sheet for the product formulation statement tip sheet is located online, and the link is provided on the slide. And the same with the flow chart and the tip sheet for acceptable documentation during administrative review. That's also available online. Is there a written policy on when the manufacturers have to update their PFS? As Gwen mentioned, it's not required for them to update yearly. As long as it doesn't need to be updated, as long as the formulation and the contribution statement stays current. If they change the formulation, which in turn changes the contribution statements, then they should update their PFS. But as a school program operator, you should still confirm and verify that the contribution statement is correct.
Actually, if you go online to our tip sheet, that is one of the bullet points on our tip sheet that reference when a manufacturer should update their product formulation statement. So it's not a written policy, but it is a bullet on our tip sheet guidance.
And I think that we are out of time for questions, so I'm going to turn it back over to Beverly to wrap up with some more guidance for a team up.
We would like to thank all of our panelists today. And before we conclude, I do have a few announcements. Plans are underway for a mentor training
and I'm done.
In Hattiesburg, Mississippi on April the 6th. State team-up events are planned during April and May in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Illinois, Georgia, and Missouri. The next Team Up Thursdays webinar will be conducted on Thursday, April 28th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time. Remember that all of the webinars are recorded and can be viewed on the Team Up for School Nutrition Success website at www.theicn.org/teamup as seen on your screen. We thank you again for your participation and we wish you a great day.